When the Dark Knight is called back to the world outside of Gotham, he finds himself facing a mystery that is all too familiar to him. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Batman issue number 124 and find out together, shall we? So then, as we join the book, we're back in Badhnisia, that brand new country that Joshua Williamson created for that last big Batman Inc. storyline that kicked off his run. Stop me if you've heard this one before. We see a rich couple leaving a Zorro movie who decide to take a shortcut down a nearby alley, only instead of coming face to face with a mugger, they end up coming face to face with Abyss. But wait, that can't be possible, right? Batman and Batman Inc. dealt with Abyss back during that last arc, meaning that maybe someone new is running around in the costume. Now back in Gotham, we actually get a little bit more fallout from the events of Shadow War. It seems that even though Talia had turned herself into the DEO, and even though Damian and Batman had had a little heart-to-heart, get this, they both ran away again anyway. Wow, what was the point of anything in Shadow War now? What a delayed slap in the face. I cannot believe this right now. I am agape. Batman, of course, didn't need to be brought up on the whole Abyss issue. Apparently, he's been watching that country ever since he left, figuring it was only a matter of time before things went bad again. Also, you may notice that the art looks like crumpled tissue paper again. Hell, I was rough on a lot of stuff that happened in the James Tynion Batman run, but this Joshua Williamson Batman run was not only short, but plagued with maybe some of the most questionable art choices for such a big AAA title in a while. Bruce hits the ground running, looking for clues. He decides to go all the way back to the LexCorp building that made up such a big chunk of the first arc in this series, only to discover that it's been burnt to the ground. Someone was desperately trying to cover their and Abyss's tracks, and it turns out that is because the brand new person running around as Abyss is none other than Detective Kaia, aka Bruce's detective buddy from that last Batman Inc. arc. It would seem that even long after Batman defeated Abyss, the legend of this masked individual still managed to strike fear into the hearts of everyone in this foreign nation. Kaia wanted to harness that power for herself, in hopes that she could finally unravel the mystery of her missing parents. You'll recall that this was a hanging plot thread from that story. We had learned that they were both protesters trying to root out corruption in their nation, and one day they just kinda disappeared. Kaia always assumed that Lex Luthor and Abyss may have been involved, but as it turns out, it was actually some other completely unrelated party. Now though, Abyss has managed to scare the right people, and because of that, Kaia thinks she may finally have the name and location of the hitman responsible for taking them all those years ago. Kaia proudly declares to Batman that when she finds the man responsible for what happened, she's going to kill him. Naturally, Batman can't let this happen, but instead of just saying, hey, I can't let you do that, he instead decides to tell a story of a time wherein he had actually gotten very close to killing Joe Chill, the man who murdered his parents. Which, yeah, obviously I know Kaia doesn't know that Batman is Bruce Wayne and that he didn't murder Joe Chill all those years ago, but still, it's such a weird way to frame this story. Also, while Joshua Williamson is normally really good with his dialogue, here everything Kaia says at a certain point feels unnaturally clunky. The place where he's hiding is full of loyal and dangerous bodyguards. If I go alone, I could die, but I'm doing this with or without you. Seriously, she didn't sound like this before either back in the first arc. I feel like everything here was just a first pass at the dialogue. Batman and the new Abyss make their way to the bad guy bar where this hitman is hiding out. Obviously, the heroes are able to make short work of all the henchmen, and eventually it's just Kaia and this guy. They try really hard to build tension because you're not 100% sure if Kaia is going to kill this dude or not, but let's face it, we've seen this story 100 times before in Batman. And yes, I know Williamson is trying to put his own fresh spin on this one, wherein Batman doesn't right out tell her what she's doing is wrong because he wants her to make her own choice, be it for good or for bad, because ultimately this is just as much a tryout interview to become the newest member of Batman Inc. than it is anything else. But again, if you've ever read a Batman story before, you probably know where this one is going. Kaia shows mercy, spares the guy's life, and in return she ultimately finds where her parents were buried. The day is saved, justice is served, and Batman ends up telling the rest of the story about that time that he almost killed Joe Chill. He says that when he looked in the cell, he was terrified about what he saw. No, not Chill's face. Batman saw his own face reflected at him. And it was in that one moment of terror that the truth became unescapably clear, and Batman knew what he must do for the rest of his life, which is why he didn't step on in even when it seemed like Kaia was going to kill that guy. Because she had to have that moment for herself, that real make or break it moment when you see what a hero is truly made of. And so that was Batman number 124, everyone, and you can see why I put off covering this one for a couple weeks because honestly it was just a whole lot of nothing from start to finish. It's the sequel slash tying up loose ends to a story that I already thought was kind of bland and forgettable. It's also really sad too that this ends up being Joshua Williamson's last Batman story. His whole run, despite all the hype and how excited I was, ultimately ended up being kind of unspectacular. Again, nothing particularly wrong with it. The Batman Inc. stuff was fine. It's cool to see them back in center stage again. Shadow War itself had a lot of problems, but also had some interesting ideas. But this final issue, though, is just kind of a damp fart to go out on. I chop this up to Williamson being busy with 100 other things and spearheading the brand new Dark Crisis story that's going on right now. It's just a shame that the main Batman book had to suffer the way it did. Also, there is no forgiving the art choices on this one. It just does not look good in a story that was already not doing much. Overall, I'd give this one a 5.5 out of 10. I'm probably gonna forget this story the second I press upload, but hey, if nothing else, we got the Zdarsky era coming very soon to look forward to, so at least there's that.
Hey there everyone, Cape Joel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you see, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. It really helps drive engagement and helps me out too. Also, if you are a patron, which you can become for as little as $1 a month, you will get exclusive content that no one else can ever see, and you'll get to see the Comic Multiverse podcast before anyone else too. You can check out all this and more down in the description. And until next time everyone, this has been Cape Joel, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.